I mean, these are words that or terms that are just thrown around, but here we want you to have the right definition so that as you are building this foundation, you understand what you are actually doing. And we also just catch your attention and bring you back to the main reason why data is such a big deal, especially in this technological day and age, right? Why really in this era where data is really just coming at us from all sides, it's coming at an accelerated rate. It's becoming big data actually. So the main reason it's such a big deal is because there's so much insight we can get out of it. We want to solve problems with it so that we can make these data-driven decisions. Okay, so we'll also introduce you to modern data practices and data practitioners. There are so many practitioners in the data world that you may not be aware of, but it's important that you actually know about them because most times your role will overlap with another data practitioner's role, right? For example, with data strategist, and then it passes on to the cloud architect or the data architect, and then they pass it on to the data engineers, and then they pass it on to the data analyst, and we pass it on to the data scientists. They pass it on to the machine learning engineers. It's so big. So we introduce you guys to these different practitioners and make you understand that there's different avenues. Who knows, when you finish maybe the data science program, you decide to try something else, right? We'll also introduce you to approaches in data analysis. Okay, yeah, so the main crux here is problem solving, right? We are here to solve a problem, and that is why data is at hand, and we actually have to analyze it because we're actually trying to solve a problem. But here's the thing about problems. Problems, they never come perfect. Think about it in high school, right? In high school, so I'm coming from a maths background, and in maths, especially in high school, things are very straightforward, like solve for x. And I remember there was a running joke about that, like, how am I going to use solve for x in the real world, right? Why? Because this question is very straightforward, right? It's very structured. There's a formula that you actually have to apply to it. But in the real world, that's not the case. The problems, they never present themselves as like straightforward. They're usually unstructured, but now we have to cultivate the skills as data practitioners and how to actually solve these problems, right? So we'll teach you guys how to solve problems in a structured, transferable, and in a logical way, right? And there's a reason behind this. So keyword here is logical, okay? So when someone comes to you, because most of the time, let's say you're a consultant, right? And you are consulting for a bank, the bank will come to you and tell you a story. And from that story, you have to craft a problem statement. And that's a skill that you actually need to acquire. That's what Explore 101 is actually about, right? By applying the right methodologies like the MISI and logic trees, as well as design thinking, then we know that, okay, this is a way we can actually break down this problem in a logical way. I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but there's something called wicked problems. Wicked problems are these unstructured problems that have so many interdependent factors surrounding it. For example, what can you say causes poverty? Can you please open the chats and let's hear from our learners. What do you think causes poverty? Where you are, based on your experience, based on your observations, research, whatever the case could be. Lack of information from Solomon. Lack of education, you can see education, economical drivers, poor use of resources. And say that again, nonsense. Ignorance, bad governance, lack of failure, the system, geographic location, laziness, financial illiteracy, I guess, insecurity, okay. Someone said something in the grit, lack of grit, okay, it's about the mindset. Poor economy, lack of jobs, lack of knowledge, lack of resources, poor access to basic services, Denise, I hear you. That's social security, poor management, inequality, so Someone saying it's a mindset. You see that when we think about poverty and they say, okay, come, I'm hiring you as a data practitioner, data analyst, data scientist, and they thank you so much. I'm gonna close the chat now because we need to focus. When someone comes to you with such a question, right? Poverty is subjective. It's subjective to me, and it's subjective to you because someone else says, "Oh, it's a mindset." Someone else says, "Is a it's health, it's lack of education, lack of unemployment." But if you look at these factors, some of them are actually they're dependent on each other, right? Lack of education can influence employment, right? So we call such problems wicked problems, and these are difficult to solve. And most times than not, when you're a data professional, you're going to be presented with such problems, which is why you need these tools, you need these methodologies like NISI, logic trees, as well as design thinking to be able to solve these problems. All right. And this leads us straight into so what? So what, Nolozi? Okay, we've defined the problem, and then what? We've defined it, we've structured it in such a way that it's transferable and it's logical. So we are here to learn how to program, right? But soon enough, you'll understand that this program or any other tech skill is not just about that. There is a problem-solving aspect to it. There's a storyline to it, okay? And in order to actually solve this problem, we use the computers, right? So we are going to introduce you guys to programmatic thinking. So understanding the problem that you're solving and having the right mindset, meaning when you're looking at a problem, are you actually putting it in the right way? Are you actually cutting it up into small batches that a computer can understand? Because a computer understands things in a much logical way, and that's why we have to get our mindsets in that form, especially if we're going to be using these programming languages, right? So programmatic thinking is the process of breaking down a problem into smaller chunks that a computer can execute, right? So you are breaking down one big task into small instructions, logical instructions that a computer can actually understand. So how do we actually do this, right? We need these tools in order to actually achieve this. So we have the algorithms and we have operators, right? And I'm sure you've heard of algorithms, you've heard of operators. Algorithms is another word that's kind of a buzzword in the tech space, and I'm sure you've seen some kind of code or something like that. So you'll be seeing it in a different light, but this module really is about laying down the foundation of learning how to program. Once you understand this, then you can then learn language, So how do we actually do this? We also use tools like flowcharts. Flowcharts are visuals. Imagine you want to go from A to B, and they're saying program this car. What are the directions? Okay, so you have to know that, okay, you go straight, and then at the T junction you turn right, and then at the circle you take the first exit. Think of a flowchart like that. Is actually like a path towards solving your problem, right? Through small instructions. And what is connected to the flowcharts is it's the pseudocode, right? This is just like a natural language, right? Because we're not learning any type of programming language here, but it's a means for us to learn other languages. Once we get our mindset in that programmatic thinking state, in that logical state, then we can learn anything, all right? And we also use tools like conditional statements, right? Think of a conditional statement like, okay, what if this happened? What do I do? What if this happened? What do I do? Okay. Yeah, so that's Explore 101, 2 weeks long. We are expecting you guys to have, this week is about the platforms, right? Getting yourself acquainted, learning how to use AnswerBase, and just studying the course on Athena, right? You already have a little bit of experience with the eHub, right? But you might want to explore it a little bit more. But yeah, get into the content, because it's really exciting, and it's in such a chronological order that everything makes sense. We start from the basics, but it ramps up very, very quickly. So we're expecting you guys to put in 30 hours, right? But this is subjective to you and your learning pace. So if you know that, okay, when it comes to critical thinking, problem solving skills, that's something that I actually need to work on, then you just make sure that you put in as many hours as possible. So this is just a benchmark that you can actually use. Okay, so now we are done with Explore 101. We've laid the foundation of programmatic thinking, learning how to, program, learning how to solve problems, learning how to come up with a problem statement. What's next? Okay, so the next one is, what's the next one? Preparing data is what we call it, right? We call it preparing data, but at the end of the day, what we are going to do is learn and practice the fundamentals of data using spreadsheets. Okay, so we're going to use Google Sheets. I'm going to repeat myself like I did on Monday. Why Google Sheets? Because it's accessible to you. It's accessible to every Dick, Tom, and Harry, right? Whether, no matter the operating system that you actually have on. So that is why we are actually using this. And the functionality is very diverse, it's very dynamic. You'll be pleasantly surprised if you are a little bit uneasy about it, or you're like, Nalwazi, are you sure about this? Yes, I'm sure about it. Okay, so what are we going to be doing in preparing data? Okay, firstly, we'll introduce you guys to spreadsheets. Like I say, we start from the basics. We'll show you this is a cell. We probably all know, we've seen a spreadsheet, right? But we do start from scratch because we do understand that there are people really starting from scratch. So we have to accommodate them as well, right? You guys will learn how to work with spreadsheets and you'll be introduced to data types. What is a data type? Okay, so think of a data type as characteristics. What makes you you? What makes me me? Maybe I'm going deeper. What makes a dog a dog? What makes a cat a cat? These are like the characteristics that make data what it is, right? And if we understand the data types, that means we can format it. That means we can clean it. For example, if I have a data set of you guys, which we already do, we are always spying on you guys. We are always studying your behavior. We're always analyzing your data. So think of a data set, and I'm gonna assume you've seen a spreadsheet. There's different columns, right? All right. So you'll have name, surname. There'll be your phone number. There'll be country of origin. What else is there? Maybe there's a test mark attached to it as well. So, and if you're looking at each column individually, you will see that, okay, it's either made up of text, data, or it's made up of numbers, right? Maybe the mark part of it. And that is, in a very general sense, what a data type is. It's what makes a data set what it is. And if you understand that, then that means we can manipulate this data. We know how to actually format it. We're also going to introduce you guys to visualization because, like I said, you'll be pleasantly surprised. After we do this analysis, we still have to visualize it because we are visual beings and you cannot take that away from us as human beings. We are visual beings, and sometimes that analysis means comparing something. Maybe it's GDP in different provinces in a country or in different cities, and when you put them side by side in a form of a bar chart, you can see that, oh, okay, there's more GDP made here. Why is that? Maybe that's where you are, you're in the government sector and you guys are brainstorming and doing whatever the government does. But I saw someone saying bad governance there in the chat. Okay, all right, cool. Let's jump into the next part. And like I said, if you know your data and understand it, you understand the data types that live within your data set, then you can manipulate the data, which is what we're here to do, right? And data never comes perfect. I will preach this until the day I die. Data never comes perfect, you guys. And you're going to experience this in the most annoying way because you'll understand that when this data is being collected, the person collecting it is not thinking of you. They are making their lives easier. Okay, so maybe they might abbreviate the name of the column, right? If it's a data set, and you will not even understand that. This is something you're actually going to experience, and we're really bringing it to you what you would experience in the workplace. So we'll be cleaning the data, we'll be analyzing this data as well, right? And just learning how to work with various data types, because understanding each data types mean that you know how to actually work with it. And on the note that data never comes perfect, there's always some kind of data anomaly, because the truth is when the data is collected, even if we can say it's through like me filling in a form, I can make a mistake. Let's say I'm filling in a form and there's a part where I have to put in my age. You guys have when you are applying for this course right here, you had to put in some things here and there, right? Let's say you make a mistake when you put in your age and you double, maybe you are 25 and you press the 2 twice and then it's 225. When I'm looking at the data as a data analyst, will be a data anomaly right there, unless you're a vampire. Because if so, please let me know. I want to live forever. I want the cure to immortality, okay? But otherwise, in the real world, that's an anomaly. How do you actually handle that, right? Or what if there's no data at all? It's just blank. Do you still go on with the analysis? Do you replace that blank with something? If so, what do you actually replace it with? These are the things that we are going to actually be teaching you guys. And next is introduction to statistics. Okay, now statistics is one of my favorite topics. It never used to be. So if you are one of those who is like, oh, I'm not a big fan of stats. But the thing about stats is it needs context, and that is what we're going to provide you in this course. Now, statistics is important. It's so important. I was reading this article on LinkedIn, and it said that statistics is the science of data science. I'm gonna say data analytics as well, because in data analytics, we cover the basics in a sense, the important things though. And then when we move on, the statistics, of course, it does extend and it becomes a little bit advanced, But I think that is so true. It is the science, because if we apply statistics in the data, then we are getting to understand the data a little bit more, right? So what does descriptive statistics do? It helps us understand the data better, because it summarizes the data, right? It helps us focus on measures of central tendency, measures of spread, measures of frequency. Okay, let's go back to this data set of you guys. Okay, you have your name, and then you have your test mark. And this is something you started doing long ago. Like, you remember when you had to find the average of all your test marks to see if you'll be in the top 10? I used to do that all the time, And here we just call it a mean. That's what it's called in statistics. So some of these things you've met before, but it's just different terminology here. So you'll come across terms such as the mean, the mode, the median, the variance, we're trying to just understand the behavior of the data, because when we better understand that, we can better analyze the data, we can better solve the problem, we can give the right recommendations. Okay, and then we'll introduce you guys to samples and distributions. How was this data collected? Is it realistic to collect data? Let's say you're doing a survey on your community, and you have to knock on each door. Think of that. Is that even possible? Is that even plausible, right? So we introduce these terms to you so that you can understand the world of statistics, how the data is collected, how we can assume and say, okay, this is true for this small sample, therefore we can assume that it's true for everyone. All right. And then finally, we introduce you to data modeling. Now, when you get to this stage, you better focus, especially if you're a data science student, okay? Or you have an interest, like, I want to see what that's about. I want to see what predictive modeling is about. You better zoom in here and take it slow and digest it, okay? So, let's get into that though. We are going to introduce you guys to spreadsheet functions as well as conditionals. This is where it will start to click how Explore 101 is actually important, right? How that, the flow charts, the pseudocode and all of that, how they're actually important, because that's where we start introducing conditional statements. But now they're actually coming back. Boom. Okay, so you'll see the relevance at this point. We'll teach you guys how to identify patterns and the line of best fits. Remember when I talked about regression, and I said regression is all about relationships. I want to find out if there's a relationship between, what was the example that I actually used? I want to find out if there's a relationship between the number of hours that an Uber driver sleeps versus the money that they actually make. And I also touched on positive and negative relationships, right? So usually you'll have data points, and this is something you've done before. So when you get to this point, I don't want you guys thinking it's foreign. You remember when we used to draw straight lines in high school? This is basically it. Y equals to mx plus c. All right. So we use the line of best fit to determine how much of a relationship between these two variables. All right. And then we'll introduce you guys to testing assumptions as well as model accuracy. So this is where the small window towards predictive modeling actually appears, because believe it or not, a straight line, that's linear modeling right now. It's called a linear regression model, and that's where machine learning actually begins. That's a very, very basic model, and then we advance from then onward. So if you understand that and you actually enjoy it, then maybe data science or rather machine learning is for you. But at the end of the day, you'll find that there's so many models that you have to test out before you find the winning one. And how do you test out that this model actually did great? If you're measuring the relationship between two variables, how do you actually measure that relationship? So you meet these different things that we actually use to test out the model's accuracy. And that is it on preparing data. It's quite packed. It's jam-packed actually. There's 3 assignments here, but you only have 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And you'll get the shock of your life here, because we are interested in your critical thinking skills, right? There's going to be a mind shift. Please embrace it. Just if you have to sit with a problem, please sit with it. Don't be too quick to jump anyway. How you cultivate the mind, the psychology of it, you have to sit down and let it challenge you. Think about it then for a specific number of, I'll say, for a specific time, because, we work differently. We learn at different paces. But you have to sit and struggle with the problem before you go to answer based, before you reach out to your fellow classmates. Okay? And this is where you start getting that shift, and it's going to be mind blogging, if I can put it that way, right? But we are here to actually support you, and that is why there's so many hours you actually have to put in into this, right? We're anticipating at least 35 hours a week, and there's 2 projects, and these 2 projects are integrated projects. Then the last one is an MCQ, right? That is based on statistics, because this thing, we know it's hard. We'll be asking you guys the basics, So the first 2 are the ones that are challenging. So make sure you don't leave things hanging for last minute. All right, let's get into the 3rd module. The 3rd module is called querying data, okay? And I did talk about it a little bit, but let's get into it. So here we'll be learning about databases and practicing how to query them, because databases is where big data lives in, right? So let's get into it. Excuse me. So we'll introduce you guys to SQL. Some of you have heard it. Some like to call it SQL. Some call it SQL, Honestly, what makes you sleep at night, go for that. But SQL stands for a structured query language. It is a programming language. There's a little bit of programming that you'll do in the previous module. But here, this is where we really get into it. And this is also quite a popular language in industry. We'll introduce you guys to databases. Remember that database I told you guys. Let's say that right now there's a database of your information, your name, your surname, where you're from. What else do you put in there? Your origin, your phone numbers, and all of that stuff. What if there's another table now with your marks? Okay, so there's no Lwazi there. First assignments, she scores at 90% because she attended the career session and attended the deep dive and understood all the instructions. She also started early, Okay, and then there's someone else there. So imagine another table, but when you look at the grander scheme of things, these tables are related to each other. What if there's another table with your instructors now? That's a table that's also related to the course. What if there's another table of other programs in the ALX? You see how this is growing, but my point is that is what a database is, because it's no longer realistic to have these different tables on a spreadsheet. How many sheets are you going to have? Because if you're thinking in a company, in industry, there'll be like 200 tables in each this like important information. So hence why we need the databases, as long as they are actually related to each other. But I'm jumping the gun here. I want you to understand what a database is. Okay, and then now how do we extract information out of these databases? In comes SQL. So, but this language also comes with its own instructions. I can say it is a programming language. So you have your data types, because what data still comes as data. It will always come as with its characteristics. But now you have to understand how SQL understands these characteristics that live within this data. All right. So we'll teach you guys this, as well as how to calculate and how to actually aggregate this data, how to sort it, and how to actually group it. Okay. So remember how I said the tables are related to each other. Here comes relational databases. So most of the time in industry, you're going to be dealing with relational databases, you know. Otherwise, there is another avenue to this that is called NoSQL, and it is introduced on Athena, right? But it is like a small segue, like a small detour to say, hey, by the way, this is not the only thing, but this is what is popular right now in industry. Okay, we'll introduce you guys to SQL schemas. We'll introduce you to entity relationships, right? What makes, when I say tables are related to each other, what does that mean exactly? Right, and that ties in with the primary and the foreign keys. We'll teach you guys how to do table normalization, and that's all about being efficient, right? Because sometimes tables are too similar to each other, and I want to just improve this to make my work life a little bit better. We introduce you guys to common table expressions as well as views. So here, that's when you're just accustomed to the platform, and now you just have the skills at your fingertips on how to actually improve this and make your life easier as a data analyst. And your life being easy means what? The company is also thriving as well. Okay, so then we have SQL in practice or in production. Okay, so we introduce you guys to set theory as well as SQL joins, some nested and subqueries. While letting you know it's gonna get a bit complicated. But if you are following the flow, if you're learning, if you're digesting the information, if you're pacing yourself, none of this should be too hard, right? And yeah, how can you improve your query performance? Because it's not just about writing a query. We want to be efficient at the end of the day, right? It's about precision. That is what will set you apart from any other big Tom and Harry data scientists, data analysts out there, okay? So we'll teach you guys how to just come out bigger and better at the end of the course. And then we'll introduce you guys to Jupyter Notebooks. Now, Jupyter Notebooks is another place where you can actually install and write some SQL code as well. All right. So Jupyter Notebooks are a nice segue into Python. So we want you guys to just get familiar with this platform, right? It does host a number of programming language, Python being one of them. And it is used in such situations like in academia, where students are actually learning how to do it. What happens in the real world? Do we still use Jupyter Notebooks? I'll let you guys find out when you get to the stage. Okay, otherwise you'll be using Jupyter Notebook, but you'll also be using MySQL Workbench, right? So and yeah, it's very accommodative to any programming, to any operating system. So you guys are good to go, whether you have a Mac or you have a Windows machine. All right. So the idea here is to try and do the same thing in both platforms, just to get comfortable, just to get confident in them. In industry, it is more the my SQL workbench that you actually be using, because it is strictly for SQL. But we introduced the Jupyter notebook, so that you guys can actually know how to navigate that space. And in order to install it, of course, you have to install Anaconda. All the instructions will be on Athena. All right, and then lastly, we're moving on to data manipulation. All right, but can you guys, are you drawing the similarities from, the previous module that I just talked about? It's almost like we're doing the same thing here. So I want you guys to keep in mind as you're going through this module, the biggest question you must ask yourself is why? Because in the workplace, they'll just dump some data on you and say, this is the problem. And it's up to you to say, okay, I'm going to use this platform to do ABC. I'm going to use this platform to do ABC, But at the end of the day, when the data presents itself, it presents itself as the imperfect data that it is. And you still have to clean it up. You still have to analyze it, right? So SQL also allows us to actually do this, And since, we're talking data types, it's either numeric, type data, string or text data. It's different. Sometimes, let's say you're watching a YouTube video, they say text data type. Don't get lost, it's still string. Some of the terms are different, right? But understanding how to actually manipulate this different data types using SQL is also important, because it's part of the data analysis process. Okay, we'll also teach you guys about data transformations and anomalies. Ooh, that sounds familiar, right? So anomalies will be everywhere, but it's about the tool that you're using. It's important to understand the whys. And as we're moving from one module to the next, in these webinars, we describe to you guys why SQL and not Google Sheets or Excel. Okay, and then you guys are going to be doing an exam at the end of this, right? Just to test you guys, like, did you do the things? Was it light work? Was it not? And just to basically test that you understand what was actually being taught, because it is quite an important module. The expected hours in total is 175, because it is 5 weeks long. You do the maths. But yeah, that is it for this third module. Let's move on to the last module. And this last one is visualizing data or data visualization. And this one is like, when you're running a marathon, it's like, that last lap, you better make it count, okay? Just for data analytics track, right? Okay, so firstly, it's 5 weeks long, and it's 140 hours that we expect you guys to actually put in, but there's like 4 assignments here. And in this previous one, actually, I'm gonna talk about assessments and what you can actually expect. So in this module, we're going to learn and practice communicating for impact, visualizing data and reporting, because after all is said and done, it's about how you communicate your findings, right? It really is about the ending. So if you think being a data practitioner is about, or a data professional is about the coding part, and you are being an introvert, they're sitting in the small corner, they coding at 2 a.m. and that's where it ends. No, I have news for you, because you have to communicate all your findings, you have to communicate your analysis, you have to connect all this logical thinking and this logical programming things that you've been doing to the actual storyline. What was the problem? It wasn't relayed to you in the form of a logical series of instructions that you put in a program. So now you're sort of taking a step back now, because you are not going to be presenting to a computer. You're presenting to a group of audience. Sometimes the audience is tech savvy, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you build this nice app and you have to sell it to a rich guy who's just looking to invest and doesn't even know what a conditional statement is. They just want you to convince them why they should invest in your app, for example. So you have to have this communicating skills, and you have to communicate for impact. But let's get into it. So the tool that we're using here is Power BI. I'm sure you've heard of Power BI somehow. If not Power BI, Tableau. What else? Google, Looker Studio. All right, any one of these things. And the nice thing about companies is it's really great if the company is using Power BI. But if maybe they are using Looker Studio or they're using Tableau, they will understand, especially if you're a very strong candidate and they can see that, you know what, this person can quickly learn. Let's take this person. So yeah, but we did choose Power BI because it is one of the most popular popular in industry. All right, so we'll teach you guys how to load and actually link data sets, you know, because once you link it, then it means you can continue and do the data cleaning. And the nice thing about Power BI is that it also has some kind of programming in it, because it's sometimes not enough just to have the data as it is. You know, there's some things that you have to create. For example, in this data set of you guys, what if I want to find out the total number of students? I'm going to need something called a measure, right? And that measure, it means it's just a number. Okay, there's over, you know, there's X number of you guys. Or what if I want to find the average? You know, then I'm going to put it as a card there. Remember that I'm building some kind of report at the end of the day so that I can present it to the fellow stakeholders. So it's really about creating the reports, right? And connecting them to the data, as well as, you know, creating some relationship views. Okay, so let's talk about visuals in Power BI, right? So part of the process, because data is data, sometimes this is where you'll jump, like from data set to Power BI. You'll do some cleaning, then the analysis starts, right? And the nice thing about Power BI is you can connect, you know, your spreadsheets and a number of different data sets in different formats, right? You will learn how to work with various data types, because remember what data types are. They are the characteristics that make up, you know, a data set, okay? And data anomalies, of course, I mean, that's a given at this point, all right? It will always come imperfect, so we always have to be fixing duplicates, spelling mistakes, fixing like empty cells and whatnot. There's always some kind of fixing and finding that we actually have to do, but we have to learn it using this tool now. So you see that it's more of a repetition that we're doing, but we're just using different tools. And the why will always stand. Why are you doing this, using this tool? Always keep that at the back of your mind. Okay, and then comes the reporting and the dashboards, of course. All of this builds up to this point because, like I said, you're going to have to be a public speaker like me right now. I grew up very introverted, but then I got into data science. I was like, phew, now I have to put all of this to the side and present to you guys right now. Okay, so it's all about presenting. So we'll teach you guys how to plan, how to design, you know, as well as prototyping. At the end of the day, even the presentations that we're actually doing, everything is very, very intentional, because we understand you. You're a human. Visuals mean something to you. I can connect better to, you know, to you as my audience, right? So what happens when we're building these reports or these dashboards? We have to have like at your spare time, just search the dashboard, go to images and see what different dashboards look like. And the things about dashboard is you have a variety of charts to choose from. But what sets you apart from a regular person who doesn't know anything is a why. Why are you choosing the chart that you're doing? What information are you trying to convey? You know, what are you trying to communicate using this particular chart? We'll also introduce you guys to filters, because the dashboards, they need to be dynamic. They need to be, you know, just know how to actually use filters, because there's a lot of things that you actually want to show to your audience. And then visual storytelling. I think I've been building up to this point, because when you are presenting your findings, it is always important to tell a story. in that sense, like accommodate the telling of a story, because actually that's how the problem was presented to you. It wasn't presented as so for eggs. No, it was presented as, yeah, so we just we rolled out this product, and we just want to find out now 6 months down the line how it's actually doing, you know. And or we've been doing this for 3 years and we're losing customers. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? You know. So it's a story that it comes to you, and when you relay back the recommendations after getting your hands dirty, you have to create these visuals to better convey the message, to better, or to communicate with impact, right? So we are telling a story through these visuals, and these visuals will be on these dashboards. It's important it's important to know when to use these visuals, right? And of course, it's not just about the dashboard. You have to be multi-talented to actually become a great data scientist or a great data analyst. Okay, you have to separate yourself from just the ordinary, and that means that creating compelling presentations, right? For example, if you watch the Caribou session, if you watch the slide deck itself, everything is very intentional, and that is what we mean. It won't only be about the dashboard. Sometimes you'll have to build a presentation and communicate for impact, so how do you actually do that? We guide you in this part, and this will mark the last module of this track. And I can tell you right now, when you start this module, you'll be feeling so confident in yourself. You'll be feeling like, you know what, when I started data analytics, I wasn't too sure, but now I'm sure. Here you will know if you want to continue on to Python or not, because you would have gone through so much. It's either you're truly enjoying, or you're like, you know what, I have everything I need, now I can go and apply it to my job. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so on Monday, I gave you guys some homework because I'm old school like that, okay? And I asked you about sustainable development goals. And I hope you did do the homework. We're about to find out. And we're going to find out through a pop quiz. Yay! All right, and this pop quiz will be done through Kahoots, right? So, so please do open, or can you share the link in the chat? Tendai will be taking this answer. Great, Tendai, thank you. You are muted, Tendai.
All right. Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Finally, I'm here. All right. So hi guys, how are you doing? Thank you for having me. Too bad I had a technical glitch, so I couldn't start with you, but here I am now, and I come here with goodies. All right. So without wasting much of Nolo's time, I'm just gonna start the session just now, just so we can scan the QR code, because we understand we can't keep you here for too long, just listening to Nolwazi and not engaging with us. So please, guys, take those phones out, scan the QR code, and let's get started. All right. I'm not seeing anyone joining. Let's get up our phones, guys. Hello. All right. Yeah, makes sense now. So good to have you. I see Temi there, some funny emojis and faces there. Really cool. We would have had a song. I think we do. Yeah, I think we can have some noise here. But anyway, thank you guys for joining. Let's just see how we are doing, or how much of homework we did. so we can motivate Nolozi to continue with the session. So yeah, let's continue. Let's continue. Love what I'm seeing. Love what I'm seeing. Yeah. So I'm sure if you are new in Kahoot, you have to realize that the earlier you give an answer, the more points you can get. So I'm guessing I'll be getting those answers first because yeah, we did our homework, right? I think we have enough participants for the day. Allow me to close it for now so we don't waste much time. All right. Okay. All right, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hope you guys are ready. All right. Our first question: who set up the SDGs? The UN, the EU, or the WHO? Who set up the SDGs? All right. In 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Wow. Oh my God. You see the number of people who failed that one. Guys, if you're failing a game now, oh God, it's too bad. It's too bad. But yeah, I hope you can still win this one. But yeah, thank you for the 31 the 137 who got it right. Gonna move on to the next question. All right. Oh, Tammy, you see that funny emoji that I said? I love it for you. Good one. Nice one. Let's see if James and Angie, Sibanks and Ivan can get it right. Next question. All right. The SDGs or global goals are a set of goals set by the UN to end poverty by which year? When are we expecting to end poverty? 2050, 2030, or 2070? When are we expecting to end poverty with these goals?
Then also.
Okay, all right. That is close. And 119 got that correct. What's happening with the others? Oh my God. Let's see if Temi is still the king. I'm hoping it's a gent. So yeah, Temi is still there at the top. I see James has moved to number 2. Faye there is, has joined us there. So thank you guys. Third question. The 3 pillars of sustainable development are, is it love, joy, peace, the stock market, banks, companies, society, the economy, or environment? Which are the 3 pillars of sustainable development? Right, I see the answers are coming in 3, 2, 1. Good. Oh, this one has been good. This one has been perfect. 166 of you got it right. Shame to the 9 who failed it, but let's see who is leading.
Anytime people are coming,
Tammy is still holding the fort. Faye there has moved. I see Banks has moved to the top as well. James, what's happening?
we'll give you answers.
Please claim your throne. Please claim your throne. So this one has 2. It's double points. The definition of extreme poverty is when people earn how much? $1.90 per day, or $1.25 per day, or $5 a day. What is the definition of extreme poverty? We say it's extreme poverty when people are earning how much? $1.90 per day, or $1.25, or $5? Which one do we say is extreme poverty? Right, I see a lot of you got that one wrong, but yeah, we keep it moving. Double points. And Temi is still holding the fort. I see Banks is back there. Faye, where are you?
I get that feel too.
All right, this one is gonna be the last one. How many people in the world suffer from hunger? 1 in 10, 1 in 5, 1 in 20. How many people in the world suffer from hunger? Let's see if someone got their homework right. I see Tammy there. He is really showing what he is here for. All right. And that is all we are getting for now. And right, we have in third place